Hi there. Welcome to Friday Night Spiritual Insights with Michael Mirdad. And I am, as luck would have it, your host. Today, we're going to talk about something that's happening on people's minds. The spiritual people talk a lot about ascension and, lofty and beautiful concepts like that. And then there's really, another take about life on earth and where it's going and so on. So I'm going to call this 5D, meaning fifth dimension, 5D versus 5G. Okay? Off and running we go. In a nutshell, hopefully most people would know what those abbreviations stand for. It's kind of interesting because there could be a new slant on the word 5G if we thought of it as the fifth generation of something. But why are we having, by coincidence, this fifth dimension and fifth generation? Are they colliding? Are they complementing? Are they running parallel? What's going on, guys? But it's not a coincidence at all that these are happening at the same time. Some people are going, I thought we were ascending. I thought we were going to the fifth dimension, and instead there's all this stuff happening. And I caught on and I went, oh yeah. I hear, I listen, I feel the vibes in the world. And it's absolutely true that these are running parallel. There's God's reality, which is behind all things. There's going to be found the light of God, not in the traditional sense, like, well, behind every tragedy, maybe there's some little good that can come from it. Please learn to be brighter than that and deeper thinker than that, because it's not bad to think that, but it's not as evolved as we can be. So we can say, well, even though a tragedy happened, some little morsel of good might have come from it. That's not as good as life gets, okay? It's not what you extract from it. That's a good thing to do. But when I'm talking about the light of God behind all things, I don't mean what little good you and I can extract. I'm talking about literally behind all that seems to be in this world, there is this absolute presence of God. This absolute, wow, this total presence of light. Behind dense bodies, there's like behind a brick or a wall, or there's light. I'm talking about the frequency of light, not the wall, nor the frequency of the wall. I'm talking about hidden behind everything you can see or sense or experience with your senses, behind all of that, behind every dimension, including the fourth dimension and so on. There is this absolute, perfect, beyond dimensionality light of God. So that's the great thing to remember. In the back of your mind, all things do work for the good of God. Not in the way we think, but in the absolute truth of God's sense of the phrase. So right now, there's a fifth generation technology that's, almost sci-fi scary, because it's just messing up people's minds and bodies and causing new ailments, and a lot of things are kind of going funky with that. And like many sci-fi movies, there's that whole conspiracy behind it, where many futuristic movies, that there's some really seemingly great thing or some mass computer or whatever the movie's about. But unfortunately, there's always greedy folks running it and not telling you other things that are going on and why abnormalities and in the bodies are happening. And there's a lot of movies made by that, because it does exist in the human consciousness, not only to experience things like that, but to do things like that to each other. So that's part of the ego-based world. We're not going to fix it by fighting it or hating it or resisting it, as we were taught by the Christ. Resist not evil. You're not going to cure it by fighting it. It's to heal through forgiveness. And that's a hard thing for some people to understand. I'm not forgiving anybody. You're telling me if I sat there and forgave, suddenly all the 5G would go down. They'd go down to a lesser evil. And, I'm not going to tell you that, because it's not that forgiveness is supposed to be measured by how many external things go your way. Forgiveness is really to be measured by how you feel in the moment. If I don't feel good enough in the moment, then I haven't forgiven enough. Now, this is kind of interesting to think of it this way. So think of three realities. God's reality, perfect light, beyond dimensionality. Then our reality, third dimension, with all kinds of dense, yucky, radioactive experiences, whether it's thinning of the ozone, or whether it's economical greeds and whatever, war, all these things, it's, I mean, even radioactivity, literally, like nuclear plants collapsing, there's been a few of those just in our lifetime, and it's horrid. Several times I have gone to, or I can't remember, but at least a few times, several times I've gone overseas and to Japan, literally, for example. And in Japan, I remember almost each time I did a workshop, and I would do I think it was maybe 3 or 4 workshops each time I went. And it was quite interesting because, when I went, there was always somebody in the audience asking about Hiroshima. What an amazing and humbling thing, guys, to be an American citizen, sitting there listening to people that are 1 or 2 generations after Hiroshima, the bombing, and still the literal and metaphoric fallout from that. And if you know me as a teacher, hopefully in all these years and on all these videos, somebody out there gets it and understands me. I don't know, because I'm a bit of a one-off, as they call it in some countries, in the sense that, this one lady saying, "Michael, can I ask you to please pray?" Sure. What would you want me to pray about? She's asking in the whole, group. I would like Michael to pray, please, for Hiroshima, because we have lots of farmers that are still struggling and they're starving because people will not buy the produce that grows in that area because they're afraid that it's radioactive. And then this is, mind you, just months after the tsunami and other radioactivity and fallout and so on. So I just said to her, I said, sure, and we prayed. But I also, this is the one-off part, I also said, I'll eat produce. I don't even eat produce. I'll eat produce if you bring some from your town, Hiroshima. We mustn't let people suffer. And if someone's suffering because of an external thing, the radioactivity and all that, fine. And if it kills me, at least I died doing an act of love for you. And you got to witness that somebody cared enough to eat that, even if it could be harmful. Jesus does his cross thing. You do your version of the cross. We have our cross to bear, but it doesn't mean suffering. If you suffer, then you're being a martyr when you do things for people. If I said, oh my God, if you people only knew how many hours I work, and the long suffering, that's the old school stuff, meant long suffering. Come on. Give yourself a little smack and, lighten up, wake up, smile. There's no more need for long suffering. Long suffering really meant tenacity, but they made it into lengthy suffering, lengthy bouts of suffering for others. Jesus says, well, wait a minute. First of all, if you suffer for others, then you're really having a negative version of a Christ complex, aren't you? What you're doing is redundant. I've already done it. And you're trying to negate that it's already done. So get over it and stop that. So being a martyr is really against all that Christ consciousness represents, okay? On another note, I hope you guys understand what I meant by all that. Yeah, I would have said, let me, I'll have some of that if it's going to make anybody go, oh, well, if he does it, maybe I can do it. And let's turn it around. Don't make people suffer 2 generations later for the stuff done that long ago. It's just not necessary. Pain, suffering, hurt, karma, none of it is necessary. We need to bring grace to the world by being the grace in this world. And so there's these different realities. There's this God reality beyond dimensions. There's this human reality that is caught up in we live simultaneously the third and fourth dimension. You're mostly in the third dimension when you're awake during the day, mostly in the fourth dimension when you're asleep at night. But we live third and fourth reality right here, dimension right here. And fifth dimension and beyond is sort of here. This is what A Course in Miracles would call wrong-mindedness, the ego way of living, sensory-oriented, primitive-oriented, nuclear fallout, cause harm, receive harm, karma, all that. This next thing A Course in Miracles calls not wrong-mindedness, but right-mindedness. And it doesn't mean wrong as in bad, wrong as in mistaken, that you have mistakenly forgot your divinity and the divinity of others. So that's what that means, wrong-mindedness. Right-mindedness, which means you're not totally awake in God, but you're waking up. So when we're waking up beyond all this world, we start to experience the fifth and beyond dimensions. Kind of cool. And then comes way beyond dimensionalities when we return to complete oneness with God. So here we don't see much God. In this, through choosing to be different people, loving, forgiving people, we start to experience, even on earth, we start to pull the fifth dimension into this reality here. It's almost like it's behind the scenes. It doesn't come from somewhere. It's not like it exists over there and we drag it over here. It starts beaming through the dimensionality, the fifth dimension and beyond. It starts beaming through and then becomes our reality. And that's what you see. So all of a sudden somebody says, oh my God, do you see that? We should worry, worry, worry. They're sitting still with the third dimension forward, where everything's radioactive and something to worry about. Somebody else says, I don't know why. You might even not know that you're doing it. You might not know why you're feeling peace. I don't know, I just feel kind of okay. And they're going to go, bad, bad, shame, shame. You shouldn't, you're wrong and bad. You're in denial. Wow. And what they're doing without realizing it is they're trying to basically force the light of God back into the back of the scenes. In art programs, it's like when you ask something to come forward, it'll say go behind or pull forward. You're asking this piece of art, which is God, to come forward and become your dominantly seen thing, the fifth dimension and beyond. And then more of God will be eventually seen until it's the absolute. But this is happening, the fifth dimension. So some people are saying, well then, why is this really dense, yucky stuff happening? 5G. I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant if you think about it. Because the third dimensional ego-based world is trying to compete with the fifth dimensional world by calling itself 5-something. It even rhymes. Oh, forget about 5D. How about 5G? You see? It's just trying to compete by calling itself a new name that matches, that rhymes. And it's like, nobody gets this. I don't know, it's just funny that people don't see through this. Choose 5D, not 5G, because 5G is just a facade, more and more of the ego again of 3D world, being tainted and made nuclear, and it's lying. So it's almost as though 3D, here comes 5D, and 3D latched on and rode in, like a hijacking or a castaway, in there, stowaway, castaway, or whatever, the stowaway, that gets on board and rides along and trying to say, look at me. Well, it's not going to be able to continue because the more 5D becomes the reality, this thing is going to just dissipate. Not die painfully. It's going to just dissipate painlessly because it's not real. Okay? So think about this. Try to see it from a new perspective. I said in a talk the other day, and I think this is really beautiful, but some people, they think of maybe this whole thing that's going around the world of people having to kind of isolate, some call it, I call it incubate. So I did a talk just on that, choosing incubation instead of isolation. So pulling within, is it really that horrible? that everybody it goes inside. I think it's a great metaphor. Not only that, you're asked to go inside your home. That's kind of a cool metaphor. What is my ultimate home? God, heaven. So when I'm asked to go within, that's already great. Go within home, that's even greater. So the whole world is being asked, told, stop, go within your real home and find your real self. 5D. And yet, riding along there, something that's kind of hijacking this, trying to hijack this trip inside to 5D consciousness, is this 5G technology. And that 5G technology is trying to make this into such a scary thing, because that's all that has to happen, okay? If we're going to move towards fifth dimension and it jumps on board, and the whole time that we're getting closer and closer to the fifth dimension, which is in our lifetime hugely going to be manifesting. But as we go, and it's riding along, it's not going along for the ride to find peace. This ego-based self is everything but peace. It's the complete opposite. It's fear, hate, hurt. So it latches on, gets on board, and rides along so that it's going, I'm going to manifest something to distract you. And all it has to do is say boo loud enough, and we'll go, what happened? Oh, can't you see what's happening in the world? As soon as you and I go, oh my gosh, you respond to it as though it's true. Once you respond as though it's true, you're responding as though it has power. Once you respond as though it has power, it does. And so it is. Then here comes the ride. We were, riding in on, an airline, welcome to airline 5D, We're riding along, and all of a sudden, nosedives, and we die, come back, and realize, whether it's literal or metaphysical death, we die, come back, and we're right here going, oh my goodness. I'm back in the scary world again. Now, I know you guys, generally people watching this kind of program would get what I'm saying, so that's cool. But if it's true, and I assure you it is, then if going within for a month is a metaphor of us going into another quantum leap into fifth dimension, then isn't it also possible that people that are, say, taking a break from relationships, some people are, maybe I just don't know how to do relationship, or maybe nobody loves, I'm unlovable, maybe I'm not attractive enough, maybe this and that and the other. You go into all that stuff. Maybe try a different perspective. Maybe try to see it not from this perspective, but from a higher minded perspective. So try this one. Wait, if people are going within for a month, and I believe, let's say that we're all agreeing, we believe that this is a great calling to go within and rise to a new level of consciousness. Excellent. If it's true, then is it not also true that going within and not doing relationships, I'm not saying don't do them. If you have one and it's working, great. I'm saying if you're not doing, if you're alone, I don't care for 2 years or 20 years, stop for a minute and say, maybe I was doing a personal version of what the world is now doing. I could shame myself for not having a relationship. And mind you, if I've been hurtful and abusive and I've got restraining orders left and right, maybe I should look at this a little and learn something. I'm not taking away from that. But I'm saying for the most part, it doesn't help us to condemn ourselves, judge ourselves for not having a partnership. Just what if you were joyfully taking a break, not feeling joyful, but what if you were doing it to find joy? In any case, think about this. It's so beautiful to practice seeing things from a different perspective. I am not claiming that everybody's seeing it that way, so I'm certainly no fool, and don't, I'm not blind to the fact that you and I are going to run into people consistently that are going to try to change our view of this and push us another direction. So I'm sorry for any struggle you have with this, but while you're watching this program, allow it to sink in that maybe, guys, there is another way of looking at this. And maybe we're on course for that now. It's all going to change. It is, and it is changing. 5G is an attempted distraction. That's all. And it's an ego ploy to try to take us in a certain direction. All right? Let's not, bother with that. Just do your best. And by the way, I'm not asking you alone to fight this, inside or outside. I'm saying, in case it's not clear from all the teachings I've done over many years, I'm saying call on God to help you. Just say, like you're a child, to the mother, the divine mother, the Holy Spirit of God, Mother, help me. And if you want, call on your brother, Jesus or Christ, help me. I'm trying to focus on your knowing of who I am. And there's so many voices to the contrary. Help me. Don't say make the voices go away. Ask how to have the strength to walk through them. Ask how to forgive whatever brings those voices about, seemingly the power. And it is a test. Every one of those voices, they're not bad that need to be taken away. They can be used. The mother's going to say, I don't want to take them away, sweetheart. They're actually here testing you. So when they say boo, just say no. Boo again. No. Scary boo. No. Just keep holding that beautiful, confident center. You deserve it because it's who you really are. And therefore, what you really deserve is peace and love and joy and happiness, the happiness that God always wanted for us. It's kind of funny, if you ask your parents or a partner, or your children, what do you want from me if you could have anything? Oh, I want you to be successful, or they all have, things like that. They never, even if they say something really sublime, they never totally mean it. People typically have agendas. And God, though, with no agenda, is saying, not only do I only will for your peace and happiness, but I literally am going to make it happen. I'm going to work every day to bring about your peace and happiness. It is absolutely all I think about is seeing you come home, feel, experience, and know the presence of heaven. So one thing I want to add to this is that the concept of life, 5G and this and these are just tests. If you see it that way, it really changes the whole, what am I going to do and how am I going to fight this, and it's getting the best of me, and so it doesn't have that power. So seeing it as a test really changes things. But also, people don't realize that the reason someone would create technologies that could cause harm is not just money, power, greed, control, which it's all those. It's not just that, though. Those are symptoms. What it's really about is, A Course in Miracles calls it an attack on God. For example, in this world, even if something is good, you like it, even Jesus, oh wow, this is wonderful, look at, he cures people. And then his friends watch him get crucified. And then they sit there, what is all that about? I mean, this guy was light, man. We could see the presence of God on earth. I mean, what more could we ask for? And he's dead. They beat him to a pulp. Like, it's horrible, according to the viewers, right? And I loved this and it's gone. I had the partner and they're gone. I loved my child and they passed away. I love my this and that. Even things you love. But what I'm saying is, everything reflects our relationship with God. You can hear all my chimes and branches flurrying as I say that. It's kind of dramatic if you were able to hear all that outside. But guys, everything. So if I say, oh, I'm going to never love again, it's not just romance. You're saying deep, deep, deep inside. I know on the surface level, oh, I'm heartbroken, I'll never love again. But deep inside, you're making a statement. And the statement is, I don't trust people, and I don't trust myself, and I don't trust God. That's what you're saying. Deep down inside, it's always going to end up being at the root of it, God. We think we separated from God. We think, well, if God really loved us, he wouldn't have let us separate, as though that would have been a good idea, because then we'd be complaining about not having free will. So I'm saying that I really truly believe that the 5G concept, or anything else that sabotages our better good, our healthiness, our wholeness, our love, everything that's good, prosperity and all that, those things are not accidental, nor are they dished out by God onto us. Those things are coming from us saying, do I really deserve just fifth dimension without punishment or pain of some kind, or distraction? This is you and I, and things can get much worse unless, and this is the key, you and I, if we only were to accept our deservability to go to higher dimensionality, it would happen with not even the slightest amount of inflammatory reaction. Just one thing, our deservability. Forgiveness helps us find the deservability, but it also helps us restore our belief in deservability of other people, if you think about it, right? So deservability. And deservability comes from forgiveness. Deservability then also comes from, I wonder if I could start believing in my own and affirming it. I don't mean the ego arrogant type, like an entitlement. I'm talking about a beautiful, soft sense of, wow, I really can receive. And then also doing the same for yourself, towards others, from you to others, towards yourself, but also from yourself towards others. Practice not only seeing their deservability, but literally teach them that. Teach them that they're deserving. Think about it. When people say, oh, pay it forward. What do you think that means? Oh, it's just kind of a cool phrase or fad, or some people use words like good karma. Well, that means that I've got agendas if I'm looking for good karma. Pay it forward because it's my deserving way of saying that you too are deserving. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Think about it. What can I do to help a child of God feel deserving today? So I give an extra, tip towards a server in a restaurant. And they say, whoa, why? What's this for? You deserve it. Plant the seed. I don't care if they completely figure out what you mean by that. You planted the seed. And, I don't know, if they ask, I guess you could, well, honey, I just believe, that people deserve, and we all deserve goodness. And, if they ask for that, if they're open to that, but remember, they have other tables to serve. And if they get fired because you talked to them for an hour because you're preaching, that didn't really help the deservability level, did it? So, you have to be sensitive to say, what am I really meant to be doing here? But yeah, think about it. What can I do? Lend somebody your car, give somebody, this, or whatever it happens to be, as long as they can understand deservability. If I were giving you something and I felt like it was really building more entitlement, meaning more harm than good is coming from this, I would pull back. I would pull back. I would put a pause on what I'm doing and find a way to tactfully kind of shift it around. But that's how I would deal with it. Just remember, we want to go from this where we're all like melting down, radioactivity kind of meltdown emotionally, psychologically, financially, and it's not our destiny. We really want to go somewhere else. And that somewhere else is to higher dimensionality. That's not our goal. It's not our destiny. Our destiny is only a capital letter D, destiny. God. 5D, fifth dimension, sixth dimension, seventh dimension, 800th dimension or whatever, still is a dimension. Never park the car in any of those. Keep going until you're completely home. Capital H, home. Not this home here, not our home in our building, not our home on earth, our home in God. Destiny in God. Divinity in God. Going all the way home. And you leave that part to God, really. You just do your best to stay out of fear and judgment, and then you'll be traversing the universe without even knowing it. You might still get up and, stir up your breakfast and make your this and get the kids in lunchbox and off to school. You might be doing your three-dimensional things, but when you're practicing love and forgiveness instead of fear and judgment, you are already ascending. You may not know it, and you might literally ascend, poof, out of your body, which is called the rapture in Revelation. It can happen. You might, however, take a different tact. It might be, oh my God, my consciousness is raising at such a rate of, through love and forgiveness, a rate of dimensionality and consciousness that the body is of no use. And literally, poof. But sometimes, poof, the body will disappear with you. Other times, poof, your body will lay down as, and die. But your consciousness is like completely free. That great proclamation, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. That's the day of the last judgment. We're all going to say that. That was really not just a statement of a wise former slave in the 1800s. That was really, you could say, that was a channeled future prediction that we're all going to that place. Slavery is a manifestation of us feeling enslaved. All the slave owners were already enslaved. They didn't know it. So they wanted to punish other people, saying, if I'm going to be miserable, so are you. That's not what they thought. They thought, with their pipes, aren't I wealthy? Look how many slaves I own. Like you can own people. Not only is that not true morally, but even in consciousness, it's completely absurd. But they're thinking that. But in reality, for every slave, for every enslavement, for every year of enslavement, for every day of enslavement, that's already a statement of where they feel they are themselves inside. I can't do to you that isn't already being done inside my consciousness. I can't love if I don't already love. And I can't enslave if I'm not already enslaved. So we're all enslaved with judgment, karma from the judgments, fear. Where do you think fear is now coming from? It's this cyclical thing. Fear causes more fear. Hate causes more hate. Evil causes more evil, as Jesus puts it. Return all these things with love. Return, bring love as a reply to these kinds of behaviors and thoughts. Behaviors and thoughts. Behaviors and the consciousness behind the behaviors. So we have to forgive the behaviors, but that people have a hard time with that because they think that means condoning it. It doesn't. It means saying that's not the reality. The ultimate reality. The ultimate reality is the consciousness behind it. And that's even more disturbing at times. But I'm going to the roots and I'm going to forgive the consciousness. The behavior is like the fruit on the vine. It's like a weed that's going to, pop out like some toxic stuff. You get the root and the whole thing dies. You don't have to go snipping all the heads off and then it multiplies into more, like the multi-headed hydra that Hercules has to kill. And how does he deal with that particular challenge, his test, the labors of Hercules? He cuts off a head, it grows several. He cuts off another, it grows several for every one. That's a metaphor of judgment and hurt and hatefulness and karma. So what does he do? He realizes he cuts a head off and then he cauterizes it so that it's called, it seals it. It's done. So that's like saying no more. And forgiveness says no more to past cycles and karmas and belief systems. So that's how we deal with it. Even though in the labors he seems to be fighting something, it's a metaphor. And it tells us, how can you deal with evil? By fighting it, killing it, and trying to just deal with the symptoms of it? No, get to the root of it. Kill these things and so to speak, and seal them up. That there's no more life left in that. That way my old fears don't come back and birth again. My stuff with my father, grandfathers, ancestors, past lives, those are the multi-heads. Snip, seal, done. Seal is the metaphor for heal. So as I seal up that wound, cut the head off, seal it, it's healed it. And I feel complete. You see? So you and I are going to move into the fifth dimension, and we are moving there. Do not lose faith in that. Do your best to keep the faith. Do your best to know. Just keep reminding yourself it's just a test. And, this is just a test of the emergency Godcast system. God first in all things. God first. Thank you for the shirt, the person who knows they sent it. As I'm coming to a close, we're moving into higher consciousness. Learn to recognize that everything, behind everything is really the search for God. The longing for God. When you love someone, it's God you really love. You hate someone, it's really God you hate. Now ask yourself why. Well, I don't like this person because they don't love me, or I don't like this person because they left me, or I don't like this person because whatever, reasons. They stole all my money, or whatever. Hidden behind it is, I don't trust now because this person stole from me, but I also don't trust God. And I know we don't believe that sometimes, but that's what it's about. There's a part of us, how could we say that we completely trust God when we ended up on a planet where pain and suffering is the norm? So, think again, choose again. There's another way of looking at this, a divine way. And as you and I hold a commitment to seeing things differently, we are entering a different dimension. So, hang in there, guys. Do what you can to hang in there, and we'll see everything different. Do not sell yourself short here. You and I are, maybe we live alone, maybe we're romantically alone, and so on. Maybe you're alone, the children have moved out, now you're empty nest syndrome. Just understand, why was it okay for us to start saying and affirming and celebrating that, everybody's going inside and it's a good time to get to, self-inventory? Why are you saying it about this outside circumstance and not about your personal relationship? You see? Apply that there too. Give yourself some credit that maybe that's what you were doing. I've always said that. It's that you were fasting, fasting from relationship. The problem is, if people don't take advantage in the highest sense and fast from relationship, then really they don't get it, and they'll be no different when it's, another day or another lifetime. They still won't get it. They'll still, lonely and still long for a relationship on the outside. And when you look for love on the outside, you're looking for love where it cannot be found. I've always said as well that you and I, we have to bring love. First of all, be the love and bring the love. Instead of lacking love and seeking love, be the love and bring the love. Different relationship you have, it's objective, it's far more objective, it's far more expansive and holistic to say, if I'm only bringing the love, I be the love, bring the love. It's fantastic. That also helps me then, every bit that I bring, I become the love to another level, which then I bring, then I become, then I'm being the love, bringing the love, becoming the love. And this beautiful cycle around and around. But humans, because your ego's doing the same thing it's doing with 5G, trying to keep up with 5D, human relationships are doing the same thing. No, this is all fine philosophically, but where's my partner? Where's my life mate? And so on. And it's just so self-defeating and damaging. So be ye careful when it comes to letting yourself listen too much to these voices of the ego inside and out. As Jesus says in A Course in Miracles, you are far too lenient of mind wandering. So just call it and say no more. All right? Thank you so much. And last but not least, this is a course we're doing right now through the time that people are sort of holding up, and kind of taking time, quiet time more at home. We're doing a whole course, and you're welcome to participate if you like. To do so, you'd have to be on my mailing list, so because you can't just sign on in Zoom. You have to know the password. To get the password, you have to be on my mailing list. And So, you can either do that by going to my website and getting on my mailing list, michaelmirdad.com website, getting on my mailing list, or you can do it by going in and becoming a member of my Friends of Michael Mirdad Facebook group. Also, Unity of Sedona's membership, they're welcome to this, but it's a Zoom broadcast. It's like our own TV station where throughout the month or two or however long people are at home for all these hours, we're just providing learning, teaching, love, education, support, feedback. I mean, we're all just there. There's, a dozen or two facilitators that are taking a half hour each to do a talk on different things, demonstration on different things. You could learn Reiki. You could learn yoga. There's a lot you can get while you're sitting at home thinking that you're frustrated or alone. You have this opportunity to experience spiritual family. It's a virtual version, but it's moving in the right direction, isn't it? Learning to love more people, hear more people, share with more people. It's a really beautiful experience. And it's a great metaphor of feeling more camaraderie. And that's another way of virtually entering the fifth dimension. So onwards we go together. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.